Game 2 is here. Let's preview it and talk Spurs adjustments. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Spurs In Focus right here on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Podcast. The list goes on and on. Spurs In Focus Substack, completely free. Go check it out right now. I am your host, Jeff Garcia, longtime Spurs writer in San Antonio. First of all, I bet y'all are still beaming after a Game 1 win by your silver and black, right? Hey, not a bad win. We're going to be looking at tonight's game, Game 2. Can those vibes continue in tonight's game, the final game at home before they go to Portland? We're looking at just adjustments that need to be made, if any, overall preview, and then giving our prediction, who's going to be the victor tonight out in San Antonio. Yeah, a lot to cover. Let's go and bring in our guest. He was at the game over the weekend, so he didn't have time to come in on a Monday because he would have been knocking on the door about 1 a.m. if that was the case. But he is back, at least for Tuesday. Matt Guzman, Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He is our next at Matt GZMAN. And what a Game 1, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the atmosphere was different than anything I'd ever seen at Frost Bank Center. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun to be there. It was definitely really cool just to experience that. And obviously fans have been waiting for this moment for quite a long time. And then, Spurs delivered, got him a first win on the first try. And I think everyone's the vibes are really high. I think the team is having a lot of fun together and they're starting to realize that this is real. Yeah. This is something that we're chasing. And I mean, they look great. They look like they have a chance it looks like they can beat anyone they want to beat. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to do enough of those little things.
Hey, because we missed you on Monday. Obviously, you were just busy Sunday into Monday. But what were your overall thoughts of just what you saw on that court in Game 1? What did you take away?
Yeah, I mean, they looked a little more rattled to start the second half than they did the first half. And, obviously that 8-0 run by the Blazers was kind of worrying for a second. And then Devin Vassell kind of righted the ship and got them back on track. But yeah, I think things that I noticed were just, they were playing the same basketball that they played all season. That's something that Victor emphasized afterward was that, obviously there was a little bit of nerves, going into playoffs for the first time, a lot of stakes, a lot more media, a lot more attention. But something he said that I wanted to note was he said, we have been playing well all regular season, so we didn't have to do much different as far as tactics go. And so, they attacked this just like any other game, knowing that they weren't going to have to change all these things to be good. In fact, I think the key for them was to not change anything. Right. Are they able to play the way they've been playing in the regular season? And as close as they could get to that level of production, that's what they wanted. And they definitely got that last night. Obviously, Victor had a great night, but they looked good. They looked like the team that we've been watching all regular season. And I think that was my main takeaway. Obviously right down to the fact that, they gave up a run in the middle of the second quarter or the third quarter, but then they got things back on track, and it was a collective effort. It was Devin Vassell who got things going again, and Victor did well, Fox did well, Castle did well. That's just, these are the Spurs that we've been watching all year. And I think that was very important for them to look that way. Obviously things are different in the playoffs.
And before we get to Game 2, real quick, Matt had a chance to talk with head coach Mitch Johnson after the game. What he responded to you and your question there, Matt, was just they look comfortable out there. That was the big thing for me too. Will they have the jitters? Will they have the nerves? Will they overthink things? Will they overpass on plays? Just trying to be so perfect. But he said it right. They look just comfortable when you spoke with them.
Yeah. And that's going to be key for them. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of teams like the Trailblazers even, they entered the playoffs knowing that, hey, we worked all this time and it took right. So much effort just to get past the Clippers, just to get past the Suns to this position. And now our reward is to face the 62-win Spurs. In the same vein, Phoenix now has to go deal with Oklahoma City in the first round, and look how that went for them. 30-point blowout on the road. And so I think there's teams like that where you enter the playoffs knowing that, we're going to have to up our intensity. We're going to have to be perfect. We can't afford to have, little mistakes. Our margin for error is just very slim and thin, and then you have the Spurs and the Thunder, those teams on the upper end of things where, they're just trying to keep things the way they are because obviously it was working. The Spurs, I think, had 4 losses for, all of 2026 so far. And I think that, obviously they want to keep that momentum going. And so the key for them is to not succumb to the extra back pressure, to the playoffs, the added intensity. And I think they did a good job. They looked really comfortable. And then obviously they're having a great time together. That was something that I was asking them about yesterday, was just, a lot of guys have talked about how much fun they're having. They've done a lot of firsts this year. And so I think it's just something that, they're taking in stride. They're ready. They've been ready for this moment for quite a while. And so it was a good sign on Sunday night that they looked like the same team they've looked like all season.
All right. Well, let's preview tonight's games. Spurs-Blazers round 2 in the opening round series. When I look at game 2, my first thought is, the Blazers are going to have this feeling of we got to get one. We got to get one in San Antonio. And I'm expecting the Blazers to really come out blazing, whether it be Denny or just anybody step up. I mean, seriously, I think it was Denny, he had 20 plus points. Then it was Grant Williams with 11 and then Scoot with 18. I mean, he didn't have the help like Victor did, right? So you're right. I'm expecting Denny and the crew around him to try to level up their game tonight versus San Antonio. They have to. Denny can't do it all for Portland. That's what I'm expecting from the Blazers side. What are you expecting from the Blazers side?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a little more physicality. I think they got their first taste of Victor. Obviously, that was something that they couldn't have been able to prepare for as effectively without film to look at. Victor had somehow evaded all 3 matchups with the Blazers this season. But I think that's something that's going to be key. Now they have their first experience. They've seen Victor. They see that team and what it looks like and how it runs the offense, how it anchors the defense around him. And I think, they're going to be able to have a little bit more of an approach to it next game. I think they're going to be able to play a little bit more physically. They're going to know what he wants to do. But, it goes right back down to that thing, that same idea. If you put all your attention on Victor, you're going to get burned by just about everyone on the roster.
Yeah, I'm expecting. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's really what I mean. Yeah. It's just I'm expecting them to, be prepared for that approach. And if all the attention does go to Victor, you've got guys like Julian and Harrison and Devin who are ready to step up, and Castle and Dillon and Fox and Cornette. The list goes on, and so I think that's just going to be something that, the Blazers are really going to have to find a way to stay focused on Victor while also being cognizant of all of the other weapons that the Spurs can turn to.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Blazers will go with 2 bigs on the court with Klingon and Grant Williams. I mean, you would think they probably do just to up the physicality versus Victor. Or what do you think about this? And I asked this on yesterday's show. I get your opinion on this. What if a game 2 adjustment for the Blazers is just let Wemby cook and let everybody, we'll try to shut down everybody else? I mean, that could be an approach.
I don't know if that would work too well,
right?
To be honest. I mean, some of those early second quarter minutes, the Blazers actually went small ball a little bit without Robert Williams or Donovan Klingon on the floor. And I mean, he was just wide open at the rim, and that was part of the reason he did as well as he did, was he was taking advantage of those matchups. And so I think, you could try and do that and just shut down the shooting, but they were already doing a little bit of that yesterday. I think just about every time Castle had the ball beyond the 3-point line, he was wide open on purpose.
Yeah.
They were going to guard Victor and shut down that inside. And so I don't know. I think the Blazers have a lot that they can do. That's something that Thiago Splitter was saying, leading up to this game, is that there's a lot of different ways they could approach Victor. One of them yesterday was, we're just going to get our sea legs and figure out what he likes to do, and we'll try small ball for a little bit, and then we'll bring our big guys back in. Obviously, it didn't work. So I'm expecting them to try something different with Victor, maybe try to take him out of plays a little bit more than they were yesterday. And so I think, or on Sunday. And so I think that's just, it's part of the playoffs. It's part of knowing you're going to face these guys 4 times at least, and so I think there's going to be things that they try that aren't going to work. There's going to be things that maybe they do figure something out a little bit more, but the Spurs being the better team, clearly with talent, with togetherness, I think that they're going to be able to overcome that. And I don't really see an issue with this team moving.
Yeah. A part of me thinks that the Blazers are just overmatched. They just are. They just so overmatched. I don't see them having more weapons outside of Denny. I really don't. A miracle have to have if Dame comes alive and comes back on the court. I mean, that'll give him some life, but that's probably not going to happen. Jeremy Grant just got back. He's been out for a while. Sharp is just too streaky. You don't know what Sharp you're going to get, if he's going to be sharp or not sharp. Uh, you know, Scoot, he's been playing better towards the end of the season, but I don't know if he's enough, him and Denny, to overpower the Spurs. So I really think that the Blazers are going to throw everything in the kitchen sink in game 2 tonight just to see what works. We shall see. Now, for the Spurs adjustments, I think it's obvious, Matt, right? Don't do what they did in the third quarter. I mean, that was one of my fears coming into this series is Spurs don't give this Blazers team any life. Don't give them any spark. And for at least a half a third, they did. And they cut that lead down to single digits. I got a little nervous about that. You can see, the shots weren't falling, at least for a while. Defense was waning. Matt, that third quarter, they got to clean that up at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if it becomes a trend, because at this point, the only thing that we know is that they were a little nervous for the playoffs, and naturally so. Some of the guys were saying it took them a second to settle into the atmosphere, to settle into the vibes and the nerves. And I think, that's just kind of what happened at the beginning of the third quarter. They were excited, they're playing, they're getting ready. And then they settled back in. Devin Vassell hit a couple, and that's the thing. Devin Vassell didn't need to go for 27 points to right the ship. He just hit a couple threes, and a layup or a dunk or 8 points, and that was it. The momentum was back in San Antonio's favor, and from there they were able to just keep doing what they've been doing all season.
Mm-hmm.
The foot on the gas, and Victor kind of carried the ship, and I think it's just, you never want to have a third quarter collapse, but I wouldn't call that what happened on Sunday.
No.
I think that was just a little spurt of being nervous, and obviously the Blazers are not a bad team, so they're going to have their spots, and they're going to hit shots, and they're going to force you to take control of the game or to beat them outright. And I think that that's just part of it. As far as adjustments go, I mean, they looked pretty good. What it's really going to come down to is how they adjust to whatever the Blazers throw at them next.
Yeah.
However they decide to guard Victor differently in game 2, how do you adjust to that? How do you make sure that, if Victor's taken out of plays, let's get the other guys involved. And if not, maybe they have a terrible approach in game 2. Maybe it works even worse, right. And Victor can just go for 35 or 40 again. You don't know. But I think the Spurs, right where they are right now, they don't have to look back at something and say, yo, this is not good. We couldn't have done that. You kind of just chalk it up to being a little nervous game 1, and then you see what happens in game 2.
Yeah, check this out. Time leading. The Spurs led for 44 minutes and 45 seconds in game 1. The Blazers led for 1 minute and 40. That was it. And talk about just total control of a game. That was your silver and black there. Another adjustment for me for the Spurs team into game 2 is continue leading the rebounding edge. Portland came into, during its regular season, coming into the playoffs, they were one of the better rebounding teams. Offensive rebounding, I think they were tops. Rebound, they were at least top 3, top 5. They definitely can clean the glass. In game 1, we saw the Spurs out rebound the Blazers 45-38. I think they need to continue doing that. You don't want to give these Blazers second chance opportunity because they were one of the best in the NBA at scoring off second chance opportunities. You minimize that as well. And also, Keystone, I would like to see a little bit more bench production. I know you kind of didn't need that in game 1. Victor was just on one. Nobody could have stopped him. But you look at some of the production off the Spurs bench in game 1, yet Cornette leading the way with 10 points and 6 rebounds. But then Keldon Johnson, just 3 points. Harrison Barnes, 2 points. Keldon Johnson had a kind of a so-so shooting night. I think he went for like 1 for 4, I believe.
Right.
I like to see a little bit more bench production. Harper, again, 23 minutes. He did score 6 points, but he goes 3 for 7 from the field. And I believe, I don't know if he even took a 3-point shot. Let's check that out. No, he didn't. He took attempted 2 and he missed them both. So I would like to see just a little bit more bench production in game 2. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I keep saying, like there's so many things that you can point to, but at the end of the day, they looked pretty confident in their win.
Yeah.
They didn't look like they were struggling at any point during the game. Keldon didn't make a lot of shots, but he only shot 4 times. Most time he didn't need to. By halfway through the fourth quarter, it was kind of the writing was on the wall already. And so I think, obviously Luke had a great night. I will say that. He looked really good as a lob threat, especially for Castle. He was down there doing his thing. I think, if you want to ask for a little bit more bench production, then sure. Especially, as we keep saying, if they do find ways to challenge Victor a little bit more, or other guys aren't having nights and you need the bench to come out, that's when you want to have a spark plug and really, bring that second wind. But, the starters had it down last night. Everyone looked really good. Everyone was productive. And, it's one of those things, just, if you don't need them, if you don't need the bench to score 40 points for you, then that's great. That means you've done your job as starters and it never was really in jeopardy to where you were relying on that second unit to come and save you. I think the starters set the tone the right way, and everyone just did what they had to do to get the win.
Yeah. Spurs just got to watch out for that punch. The Blazers are going to come with their fist cocked back and ready to just throw something, a haymaker. So get ready for that because, going down 0-2, if you're the Blazers back to Portland, that's not a good position you want to be facing the mighty San Antonio Spurs. We're talking with Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He is on X at Matt GZMEN. When we get back, we're going to ask the big question. After one game, is this series already over? And then give our predictions right here on Spurs in Focus. All right, so we looked at game one, lopsided win for the Spurs. They took care of business after the third-ish period, and away we will go. We looked at some of the numbers, favored the Spurs. There are no answer for Wemby. We even talked about that massive run they went on the third period. I think it was like a plus 13 run on Portland to pretty much put this game away. This, at least in game one, the Spurs look just that much more of a deeper team. A more talented team, more weapons team than the Blazers. I know I'm not trying to live in the moment here, Matt, but is this series all but over already after one game? Did the Blazers have any shot?
To win a game, yes. To win the series, no. I think that was pretty evident from last night or from Sunday night. It's one like the guy in the picture right there. That's ultimately that is who the Blazers are going to lean on. Like you mentioned, Lillard is not there. He's not coming back. This is and even if he did, honestly, that might make him worse because this team hasn't played with him all year. This team is the team that we're watching right now. It is not, they're missing Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard hasn't been with the team all year. And so I think, this is the makeup. This is who they are. They lean on Denny, and he's been amazing. He's really annoying to play against. I imagine that Castle was really fed up, getting 3 fouls really early on. And so I think, they're going to lean on him. He's going to get his points. And that was evident on Sunday. He had 30, 10, and 5. And the closest they got was a little run in the third quarter that, like I mentioned, only took a couple threes and a dunk from Devin Vassell to get back on track. That's it. And if it wasn't Devin, it was going to be Victor or it was going to be Steph Castle. The Spurs were in such little trouble of losing Sunday's game, despite Denny having 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. And so I think it's just, he's going to have his moments and maybe everyone just has a terrible shooting night in San Antonio one game and he kind of helps that. Yeah. Maybe he steals a game, but I mean, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
You're on. Yeah. They're not a bad team, but they're outmatched.
Yeah.
Spurs have depth and they have more togetherness and they look the part, and so I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, Denny was a minus 12 for the Blazers despite those numbers he put up. So again, didn't really help his cause, but nevertheless, I just look at this Spurs team and it's like, oh my God, I was a little surprised. It was 10 points at half. I really was. I thought we were going to see what the Thunder did to the Suns. I thought we were going to see that early in the game. So I was a little surprised that it was so close. But after the game, Denny was confident. Obviously, he's going to just say the right things. He's not going to say, oh, well, we're overmatched. Series over. He felt good. He's like, hey, we were close for most of the game till it went away for the Blazers in the second half. So we'll see what they do. But no, I think the series is pretty much a wrap. I give the Blazers one game in Portland. I think just overall, Matt, more has to go wrong for the Spurs for the Blazers to have. I mean it would have to have Wemby has to have one of his worst games in his career. The shooting doesn't fall. I mean, there's just so many things that have to go wrong for San Antonio for Blazers to win. And it's just so lopsided. The Blazers have to do a lot right, too. They have to play a sharp defense. All their guys got to be cooking. They got to be connecting on 3 shots. There's just so many things have to happen for either side to win or lose. And when it comes down to it, the Spurs are just a better team. All right, Matt. Let's get to your prediction for tonight's game 2. All right, the stage is set, Matt. Who do you got in tonight's second game?
Yeah, I'm taking the Spurs.
Yeah,
I think they're going to take care of business at home. I think Victor's going to have another nice night. I'm not going to say 35. I'm going to say, 28, somewhere in there. But I bet Fox has a good game and a chance to really, really, strut his feathers a little bit. I just really don't see the Spurs, now that they're especially remaining at home, now that they're accustomed to the playoff environment against the Blazers, they've had this game. They know what it's going to be like. So they know what to expect going into Tuesday. And yeah, they might be a little bit differently. The Blazers might throw something different on defense, right? Like we've been saying. But, Victor has, at this point of the season, he has seen it all. I think that was a bigger issue at the beginning of the year when he was being thrown different coverages every single night and people trying different things. And, but since then, he really found a way to find his spots, to impact the game, to take over if he needs to, no matter what's happening on the defensive end. And so I think that's going to happen again. I just don't see the Blazers taking one in San Antonio. Not after Sunday's night. I'd said maybe the Spurs would be nervous and, kind of be off all night. But, that clearly was not the case. And I don't anticipate that being the case on Tuesday.
I mean, either. I think they have no answer for the guy you see on the screen, number one. He just have a pedestrian day by his standards. And the Spurs still should come out on top. More weapons for San Antonio to throw at the Blazers versus the Blazers at San Antonio in their gym tonight at the Frost. That home crowd was electric in game 1 from Devin Vassell. I think even Danny Anvia mentioned how great that crowd was. By the way, shout out Spurs fans for wearing your shirts. Good thing y'all did that because that would kind of embarrassing if there was one pocket of fans that weren't wearing a pink or a blue or an orange shirt. But nevertheless, the arena was rocking. I expect it to be rocking again. Spurs on paper, and at least with one game sample size, the Blazers don't have an answer. It's for them, Matt. It's Denny or bust, really, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Like I said, they have guys that are good. This is a good basketball team and in the playoffs for a reason. But when it comes to the matchup against the Spurs, Denny can have 30 points and lose by 13. And so it's going to take a lot, like you said, for, if the Spurs play the way they did on Monday, it's a sweep. There's nothing that the Blazers can do to counter that. Obviously, I don't expect them to remain shooting as well as they did, especially from 3. They had a great night shooting 3 in game 1, but
they did.
Even if it's not 3-point barrage, it's, Fox has 30 or Castle has a 25-point triple-double or, Harrison Barnes and Julian Champagny combined for 20, and so it's, if the Spurs play the way they did on Monday, it's a sweep. And I think that's where they want to be. That is what they have hoped for, because if you do get past the series, you got a very, very tough Nuggets or Timberwolves team waiting in the second round. And I think that's when things are really going to start to look like a true back and forth. And they're going to have the Spurs are going to be the ones needing to step up and match that level of intensity.
Yeah, way to go, Spurs, not beating Denver in the last game of the season, man. You just had to have Denver in your bracket, didn't you? You just had to put yourselves in that position. Hey, but that's a story for if they, and they likely will, go to the next round. The Spurs. I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to put a Blazers hat on around. What can you do? The Jeremy Grant, can you be the same Jeremy Grant we saw in Detroit or wherever he was before coming to the Blazers or pre-injury? Dame Dollar, you coming back? All right, can you come back? It's Dame time. Things to that magnitude have to happen. Drew Holiday, he needs to step up his game. Sharp cannot be streaky. Again, back to our point, there's so many things that the Blazers have to do just to be on par with the Spurs. The Spurs can play their B game, and those should still beat this Blazers team. It's just too lopsided right now. Try not to live in the moment, but my God, you saw in that game 1, Blazers really don't have many answers for the Spurs whatsoever. He is Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. He's on X at Matt GZMN. He saved today. No nerd segment today, so we have to put him on the spot there. And again, just a quick update from Matt. Art is doing fine still. He's doing fine.
Thank you.
He's doing fine. Matt was supposed to pick him up last week, but this guy, he had to be an adult and do some work related stuff. So Matt was gonna come by and pick him up and have a little lunch with me. We're trying to schedule this for this week, where Matt can pick up his treasure there. What are you gonna do with it, Matt? Like, what are you gonna do with it? The moment you get it in your hands, what are you gonna do with it?
I'm gonna take a picture of it. First thing I'm gonna do, and then I might just keep it with me while we eat lunch.
Yeah.
Set him right there.
Yeah, you should tag the actor on like any social media and see if he responds.
Well, did you see he just got engaged?
I saw that in costume too.
Yeah,
in his costume.
And then one of these days, when I have the fancy backdrop with a hanging signed jersey and all the memorabilia I've picked up over the years, I'll have him up there too.
There you go. Yeah, that then I'll be like, hey, I contributed to that at least whenever I see your wall. Like that, I helped him with that. But Matt, yeah, we'll get together very, very soon. You can pick up your pop there and we'll have a little bite to eat. Matt, what is going on over there in your neck of the woods over at Spurs on Sports Illustrated?
Yeah, well, we've just got full playoff coverage. Been putting out a bunch of good stuff on Castle, on Devon, on this Portland Trailblazers matchup. I am going to Portland for games 3 and 4, so I look forward to full coverage for the road games as well. And hopefully, fingers crossed, there is no return trip to Portland in Game 6 needed. We'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, man, you're a traveling man. Traveling man. See, now you got to really get the pop now and have Art. No. That's a bad idea. You don't want to damage that box. You don't want to lose it.
You could be my personal item on the plane, I guess, so I don't put him in the suitcase.
You put him in the seat belt. Like, seat. Yeah, that stuff. Matt, thank you for joining us here on Spurs In Focus. We appreciate it. Thank you for taking out of your time. See, I know we didn't get him on Monday. Again, Matt was busy from Sunday. I even told him, I go, Matt, don't worry about it. You're going to be up there. Like, it was a late game. So just,
it's going to be even later on Tuesday, man. 9:30.
Can you... I think that's the only late game, like super late game that Spurs fans have to worry about. Because I think the Sunday game is in the afternoon. So
yeah, 12:30.
Yeah,
12:30 local, 2:30 here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, race for that, Spurs fans. Y'all going to be up pretty late in Game 3. So heads up already. Get your coffee ready and all that good stuff. Again, follow him on X at MattGZMN. Again, Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Go check it out right now. We thank y'all for making Spurs In Focus your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. Come here first and be your first listen, your first watch, all that good stuff right here on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Music. The list goes on and on. The Substack, Spurs In Focus Substack, completely free. Sign up, click subscribe, no charge. You're in for free and enjoy. We'll be back tomorrow as the Spurs playoffs continue. So for Mr. Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia, and now you're in focus with Spurs In Focus.